Good morning once again. I just want to take this time again to welcome you to this class. And because of time, we are going to pray and we begin the class. So we can pray. Our dear Lord who art in heaven, we come before thy throne of mercy again this morning. We want to thank you for being with us and taking care of us since we started this meeting until this time. Thank you for the people that you have brought to this place to hear your word and to hear the present truth. And so we are praying that as we are here to hear this truth, Lord, you may impart to us this knowledge and give us that spirit of being the doers of the word. Thank you for these young people. Thank you for the young children who are sacrificed to be here, Lord. I stand before them and I pray that you may use me just as a vessel. Give me the spirit of humility above all things. And for this we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. So we are going to continue from where we left yesterday. So yesterday we did the introductory part of the cookery, and we learned a few things that we should take into consideration when it comes to cooking. And some of the things that we learned is that cooking is not all about putting things together and putting them to fire, and then you mix them together and then you call that food. Yesterday, we learned that you must have, as a good cook, you must have a background information of everything you're doing, about cooking, what you're cooking, the sources of your food. That is, if you want to serve your family a better food, a better diet, if you want to impart to your family a better health. So as a people, there is a need for us to understand. And that's why we are here, so that we may understand these things, we may get the knowledge that we need for a time like this, because we are living in such a moment when everything is just turning upside down. And so God is calling us, those of us who have this light, to stand up and live it, live up to it. That is our practical Christianity. We live up to the message that we have, not just in the pulpit, but outside the pulpit. And so we are going to continue. And I said that today we are going to see we go deep into the spices and the condiments. And let us begin from the Bible in the book of Genesis. We begin from the Bible in the book of Genesis. Genesis chapter 1, verse 31, that is during the creation, when God had done everything. He has created the light, he has put everything in place, he has created the animals, he has put man in place, he has given man the work and everything. He looked, the Bible says that, and God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. So everything that God had made, including the food, everything that was created, God just looked around and he saw everything was very good. In other words, it was perfect. Everything was according to the plan that he had. Everything was according to how he wanted it to be. And so he was satisfied with the work. When you go to the book of Ecclesiastes, the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 7, verse 29, This is many, many, many years later after the creation was completed. Many, many, many years later. When now there is sin and people have sinned, the minds have become confused. And this is now what the wise man is saying. Lo, this only have I found, that God hath made man upright, but they have sought out many inventions. Now, when you read this verse, you may just take the surface meaning and settle with it. But when you try to look into the verse, it just says that after, I want to understand that we have read the life of Solomon, the kind of life that he was living. After doing everything, he settled down and says, this is what I have found. He has done a research, experiments, and he has found out that God made man upright. In Genesis, we have read that God looked and saw everything that was made, behold, it was good. So what has man done? But they have sought out many inventions. Now, this is the problem that we have in the world today. In all the aspects of life, be either in technology, in education, secular life, everywhere, even in the church, the problem is that men started to seek out more innovations. In other words, we were not satisfied with what God gave us. So when it comes even to the food, God gave us the simple foods to take in their natural state, the way they are, but man said, no, there is a way I can improve this food, and this food will taste more good. And man said, no, there is something that I can add to this food, and this food will taste more good than it is. So we have tried, man has been trying to improve, trying out inventions in all aspects of this life, in all the spheres of our life. And so, in seeking these inventions, it is what has turned man now not to be upright. Man is no longer perfect. Right now, God cannot stand and say, behold, everything is very good like the way it was, because everything is not good. And that's why God is seeking now to bring this man who is not upright back to the original image that he once created him. And how is he doing that? That's why we have the message of health, that we may learn the ways of God. We may learn that which God says is good. Now, yesterday we were speaking about the spices and the condiments. And this is a topic that we have never taken seriously as a people. Why? Because does it matter? It doesn't matter. Why? Because our tastes were corrupted long time ago. And so we don't see the need of changing. We don't understand even the effect, and we don't understand anything. I just want us to see a few quotes that are speaking about the condiments and spices. I said condiments and spices are the additives, the things that we add to food to make them more tastier or more palatable according to how we see it fit. And so if you go to the world out here, if you try and find videos of the people in the world who are cooking just simple food, and you see the amount of spices that go into their food, the amount of additives, it is too much. And the people don't know. Nowadays, we are even lied to that they are natural spices. And so if you are using natural spices, they are good. They don't have a problem. You can just freely use them. And these that they call natural spices are the ones that have been mixed wrongly, and they are ruining the health of many people. And that's why people in many churches, they are drunkards, even though they are not drinking the real liquor or the alcohol that we know. But from the food they are partaking, it has already made them drunk. So let us say some of these quotes. The condiments, we are told, this is a Earthful Living 92.3. Condiments and spices used in the preparation of food for the table, aid digestion in the same way that tea, coffee, and liquor are supposed to help in the laboring man to perform his task. After the immediate effects are gone, those who use them drop as far as below par as they were elevated above par by these stimulating substances. The system is weakened, the blood is contaminated, and inflammation is the sure result. The less frequently condiments and desserts are placed on our tables, the better it will be for all who partake of the food. Now here she's just talking about the condiments and spices, and yesterday we tried to name and list some of these condiments, and we are going to see from the spirit of prophecy which are these condiments she's speaking about. But she says that when you use them, they aid digestion or affect digestion the same way tea and coffee and liquor do. And we are told that there is an immediate effect, that after some moment you have taken them, that effect is gone. And those who use them drop as far below par as they were elevated above par by this stimulating. So they are stimulating substances. So you may not be taking tea, you may not be taking coffee, you may not be taking liquor, but if you are using some of these spices, you are automatically having the same effect of these other stimulating substances, we are told. And we are told that they weaken the system and they contaminate the blood, and there is a result of now people having all types of inflammation. Now we continue and see what she says. Our tables should bear only the most wholesome food, free from every irritating substance. The appetite for liquor is encouraged by the preparation of food with the condiments and spices. So sometimes parents may wonder how their children, when they grow up, having grown up in the church, how they turn aside and start taking alcohol. We are told the foundation was laid in the home tables. The moment we encourage the use of these spices and condiments, automatically we taught the system of liquor, and we encourage that appetite. So it just naturally comes because we have laid that foundation. And so we are told the appetite for liquor is encouraged by the preparation of food with condiments and spices. This causes a feverish state of the system, and drink is demanded to allay the irritation. On my frequent journeys across the continent, I do not patronize restaurants, dining cars, or hotels for the simple reason that I cannot eat the food they are provided. The dishes are highly seasoned with salt and pepper, creating an almost intolerable thirst. They irritate and inflame the delicate coating of the system. So yesterday, of the stomach. Yesterday I was talking about us having the stomach as a very delicate mucous membrane. And that membrane, the work is to keep alive the microbes or the good bacteria that used to break down the food, to make the body easy to digest, to absorb that food, the nutrients. So when we use these irritating spices, when they get into the stomach walls, they do away with that mucous membrane. It is a very delicate, we are told it is very delicate coating. And when it is done away, most of the food that we take, it is not digested. And when it is not digested, what happens is that we just get rid of them, but the body is robbed of its nutrients. So we might be eating a lot of food, but very little is taken to the system. And that's why we are sometimes told that if you are sick and you are taking antibiotics, after finishing taking the antibiotics, one thing you should do is how to replenish your system with good bacteria, because the antibiotics, they kill away all the good bacteria from the stomach. And so, such is the food that is commonly served upon the fashionable tables and given to the children. Its effect is to cause the nervousness and to create thirst which water does not quench. Food should be prepared in neat in as simple manner as possible, free from condiments and spices, and even from undue amount of salt. So even food should not have a lot of salt. It continued to say, spices at first irritate the tender coating of the stomach, but finally destroy the natural sensitiveness of the delicate membrane. The blood becomes fevered, the animal propensities are aroused, while the moral and the intellectual powers are weakened and become servants to baser passions. Now, this is a great effect, because sometimes you can bring up your child in church teaching them the Bible. But the moment you're serving the food that has spices and condiments, what happens? We are told that the blood becomes fevered, the animal propensities are aroused. Now you find that the children cannot reason using their brains, they start using their emotions and their feelings. They want the things they feel. They want, now the body started demanding things that are not food. Why? Because we have created that atmosphere in the system, in our bodies. We have been encouraged by the type of food that we take. And so sometimes you wonder, why is my child having some funny behaviors and I have not exposed them to this nasty world and all that? It is not like that. We are told that even from our tables, we can activate and start encouraging some of these moral behaviors, and we are told that they even affect or weaken the intellectual powers. And so the main reason why we are here, our theme is for us to understand the times that we're living in, and we understand what we ought to do as a people. Now, this word understanding, it is a broad word. It means for us to be able to understand, we must discern, we must know, we must see, not just seeing, but even spiritually seeing. So this discerning does not just come by us opening the eyes and us just reading the books, but our minds have to be very, very clear. Our minds has to be not be numbed and be clouded with so many things. They need to be not dull and dwarfed. But you realize that when we partake of these things, just like the people who are taking alcohol, the people who are taking these stimulating substances, and the people who are taking these other foods that are not good for the system, we still have the same effect as them, even though we are not partaking of this food, simply because we have left what is good and we are doing that which is not good. So, continue to say, so there are other stimulating foods, condiments, but let me just pause there as I find more. Now, yesterday we were able to list some of these spices and condiments. Do we remember them? Which one did we say that are not good? Do we remember the spices and condiments we said that are not good? Anyone who remembers any? Yes? Ginger, and I'm going to read your quote on ginger. Yes, ginger. Any other? Yes? Yeah, we said cayenne. Cayenne is good, but it's not good for... Okay, cayenne does not have that stimulating effect. But again, even though it does not have that stimulating effect, it should not be used every day, because if you use it too much, also it is going to have, to some extent, it will affect your delicate membrane. So some of these things we need to train ourselves. You know, sometimes we take cayenne, and many people who take cayenne with food, they say it will help with the digestion. But what is wrong with your digestion for you to ask for cayenne? It means your digestion is not good, right? That's why you need the aid of cayenne to help you to digest the food. So it means cayenne is not the solution, but the solution is for you to work out and get the good bacteria back to your gut flora. And when you do that and help your system to rebuild that delicate mucous membrane that you are broken down by the use of these irritating substances, and then after some time, you will start naturally digesting food. And so you will not need the help of cayenne for you to digest the food. We seek cayenne because our systems are bad. Our digestion system are not good. But if our digestion systems are good, we will not need cayenne each and every day to help us digest the food. Are we together? Any other that we said? Any other? Yes? Garlic. But now garlic is not a stimulating or irritating substance. We said garlic is in the classification of vegetables, and it has the effect of alkalizing. It has an alkalizing effect. It does not harm your stomach. Rather, what it does, it heals, it calms. Cayenne does not have that irritating, even though you may feel that in the tongue, but when it gets to your system, it does not have that stimulating effect, just like this other thing. They are those that we mentioned yesterday for those who were in class. Now it means that you are not writing your notes, and so let me read this. Let us start with the. We start with some ginger. I want to read this quote. 15 mr 254.4. This is not working. 15 mr 245.4. So there is one time when Ellen G. White was accused of using spices in her food, and someone wrote to her concerning the same, and she had this to respond. You can just go through the entire counsel, but I'm going to start from paragraph 3, 15 mr 245, paragraph 3, and says, "You have brought a grave charges against us. In the letter to my husband, I felt that I could not notice them, but I will dwell a moment upon them. In regard to our diet, we have not placed butter on our table for ourselves for years until we came to the Rocky Mountains. We found that a little butter, in the absence of vegetables and fruits, was less detrimental to health than the use of much salt or sugar, sweet cake, and knickknacks. We do not use it now, and we have not for many weeks. In regard to our using spice, I plead not guilty. We have not had any spice in our house for except a little ginger, which we have always used to some extent. So at this time, when she was accused of the spices, and we are going to see the other spices that she mentions, she says that we have not used any spice for 10 years except for ginger, which they also use a little to some extent. Not always, they have used a little to some extent. And when you go through the other places where she mentions the use of ginger, they have used it like more of a medicine, but not as a spice. So they were not encouraging the use of, she was not encouraging the use of spices. Then, another place where you can get other more quotes where she says when she was using ginger, she could put it in the milk and she will drink that milk whenever she was feeling sick. So whenever she was using this ginger is when she wants to put it in the milk, and then she will use it more as a medicine or something just to help her with her health. But she says they were not using any spice. And let us see some of these spices that she was talking about. We just mention them from the spirit of prophecy so that whenever you are asked, you don't say that someone told us that we should not use this and this and this and this, but you should have a knowledge of yourself, what you should be using and what you should not be using. Now there is this book. There are so many, but let me open this. $184.5. This is a place where spices are mentioned in the spirit of prophecy. And there are other places. And this was during question and answers. And the question was, does the body need stimulating food in order to thrive? And then the answer was, every foreign substance from which the body can derive aliments processes a stimulating quality proportionate to in power to its quantity of nourishment. Some substances are more nourishing and less stimulating. Others are more stimulating than nourishing. Some substances stimulate without nourishing at all. These last should never be used as articles of food, but only used, if at all, in particular conditions of the system. So there are substances which should only be used for particular conditions of the system, that is, if someone is sick. If a proper amount of stimulus is in the food, the digestive organs are excited to a health action. If the excitement is very intense in the organ, the organ is debilitated, and painful sense of prostration is felt. The food should therefore be used which is assimilated and appropriated by the vital functions with the less expenditure of the vital. What, aside from spirituous liquors, may be considered the most injurious stimulants? That is a question that was asked. Now, what is the answer? We have there what? What do we have? Tea, coffee, tobacco, mustard. Do we know mustard? It is mostly added to some of these mixed spices like curry powder, these mixed spices, but we have a mustard as a spice on its own. We have the yellow mustard, and people use it so much in making plant-based mayonnaise and other things. And then mustard, cayenne, black pepper, allspice, cinnamon, cloves, nutmeg, ginger, etc. Of all these, the best psychological rule to adopt in physiological rule to adopt in regard to their use is the less the better. Why? Because they have more of stimulating effect than of nourishing the system. So, and the way we can only use them, the best way we use them, we have been told there is if there is a condition in the body or sickness that needs to be tackled, and then they can be used. And you see some of these spices, they are very common in our homes. Like cinnamon, we use it almost every day. Ginger, we put it almost in everything, right? Because we are told they are natural spices, so you can just use them. Black pepper, most of our homes have black peppers. And the people say black pepper tastes very good in with food. And there are so many. Nutmeg, we use nutmeg in baking, we use nutmeg in so many other things. Cloves, we use cloves in making what? Those people who buy tea masala. You know tea masala? Yeah, tea masala has black pepper. Tea masala has cloves. Tea masala has what else? It has other things. The same applies to pilau masala. Do we use pilau masala? There are some people who still use pilau masala because after all, they are natural spices. You can buy all and then someone will tell you, I will just go buy all of them and come and grind. But that pilau masala contains most of these things. And these are the things we are told that we should not be using. But even when you use now in masala form, they come because now it is a mixture of almost everything. Now the effect is even worse than even when you are using one. And so, what are we supposed to do? Learn the ways we can make food without depending on these things. How food can be just natural and simple with this, it is natural taste without the use of these spices. We can bake cakes without the use of cinnamons each and every day. We can do our cooking without the use of things like cloves, the things like ginger and all that. And so there's a lot that you can learn from when it comes to the spices and all that. There's a lot still that you can learn. Let me see what else I can get, but there is a lot that you can learn. Yeah, somewhere again, we can read this. This is 15 MR. The one we just read, 246.3. Still in the accusations, you go down there. When they were accused of using spices, and this is what she had to say: I have not had, to my knowledge, a particle of what? In the house for how many years? So how are they surviving without pepper? Because I know in our homes we don't survive without pepper. You will always find black pepper, cayenne, and other types of chili pepper. We have types of pepper, so many of them in our homes. But she says they survived for 10 years without pepper in the house. When Lucinda went up to Mr. Willings's mills, I said to her, get me a little pinch of pepper and I will try to some beans, to eat some beans. I thought the pepper could perhaps prevent them from causing me to have the colic. You can read other places where she talks of her having a problem. Later on, it's like she stopped having the beans because she will have digestion problem and other problems whenever she was taking the beans. And so here she's saying, she sent Lucinda to get some pepper to help her, to see if they will help her. It will help her to try and eat some beans. I thought the pepper could perhaps prevent them from causing me to have the colic. But I think so little what I eat, it never entered my mind that there was any pepper. So much for pepper. I claim that we live very plain and economical. Lucretia, if you did not mean to tempt us in buying cheese, what did you mean? Did you buy the cheese? So she goes to talk about other things. But again, the thing is that they were surviving without pepper. And so whenever she wanted this pepper, we are seeing she is only using not just to gratify the appetite, but for a condition that she has been having. So it is not for us to just freely use this because ginger is there. You just wake up every morning, you grate, you put in water with the lemon, you drink. Ginger is there, you grate, you drink. Every now and then you have a small problem, you are taking ginger. They are good, but sometimes we are told that we should go slow on anything that is irritating. Why? Because of that delicate mucous membrane, and especially for the young children who are growing up. Their stomachs are very sensitive and delicate. The moment we get rid of that sensitivity from them, it is very hard to rebuild those walls once again. It will take time to rebuild those walls, and that's why we really need to be very careful with what we are taking. So when we are talking about food, we are talking about all these things. When we are talking about cookery, we are talking about all these things. Because in the world there, girls are taught like you don't have to know how to cook any other way. The only way is just fry your onions golden brown, add garlic, make it also golden brown, and then add a mix of ginger paste, and then add your spices. You make sure you are adding turmeric, you are adding paprika, you are adding gram masala, you are adding all these things to your food. And then now after cooking, you see the food is looking some beautiful color, and then you say, I know how to cook. That is a good cook. Now that is not what God calls a good cook. Because whatever you are taking is only gratifying the appetite, and you are just trying to quench the thirst which that food cannot quench. And so what do we need? If we can learn the best way of cooking, cook the food the way it is, let it retain its natural taste, and let the people unlearn from this artificial taste that we have indulged ourselves in, and start train our mind in starting appreciating the simple food. That is the only way we can live simple, healthful lives. And so those are some of the spices, and there are more that you can read upon yourself. Ginger, cloves, cumin. Cumin is one of them. You can type cumin in the Spirit of Prophecy, and you will see so many quotes there about cumin. And the Spirit of Prophecy is just against them. Cumin, all this mustard, and all these things, they are irritating. They are irritating through the system, and so we should not be using them. I said there are some safe spices that you can use. You can use coriander seed powder. Just plant your coriander. After harvesting the leaves, let the plant go to seed. Harvest the seeds, dry them, roast them in the fire for some few seconds, like a minute, and then grind that and have your powder, which you can add to your food once in a while. Not like every day, not in every food, just once in a while. You can also use things like fenugreek and fennel. Another thing, I said that as good cooks, we must have kitchen gardens. Now, the importance of having kitchen gardens is that now we will learn to plant our herbs. Do we know herbs? Herbs that we can use in our cooking, which will make us not need these spices, because sometimes we want this aroma, nice smelling foods. The herbs can give us that. You know some of the herbs that we can plant? Which ones? Some of the culinary herbs that we have, yes? Oregano, mint, herbs that we can plant. My goodness. Yes? lemon verbena, yes, such herbs. Which other herbs? Yes, rosemary, thyme. These are herbs that are meant for our food. So we have oregano, we have basil, some people call it basil, very, very aromatic. We have lavage. Lavage is a very, very good herb. This is the herb that they use to make Royco. Have you ever tasted the Royco cubes, the red ones? That smell, if you get this plant that is called lavage or magi, it has the same smell. So if you want that smell in your food, you can plant this herb and use it in your food. So we have lavage, we have celery, uh, we have herbs like, there are so many, remind me. The types of mint that can be cooked with food. We have herbs like even, I'm just forgetting most of them. Sage, and we have types of sage, yeah? Lemongrass, these herbs, and you know lemongrass is also used to make stews. It is not only used for teas, but the roots are used to make stews. You can cook your stews with lemongrass. So there is a lot, and that is the work sometimes I say for the young people. Like you young people who are here, you should be helping your parents to have some container somewhere. This is not the work of your parents. You should be having some container somewhere, some 2 kg, 1 kg containers, and then you plant these herbs. You have your mint there, you have your oregano there, you have your thyme there, you have your lavage, you have your celery, you have your parsley, you have coriander. Coriander is not something that you should be going to the market to buy. These are some of the things that we should having freely from our kitchen garden. And the good thing with the herbs, most of these herbs, is that you plant once and you forget. So long as you take care of them, they will be serving you for years and years. We have chevril, we have even lavender. These are herbs that can be used in culinary. There are so many of them. And so the work of the young people like you now, in your age, is making sure that outside your compound or the kitchen garden of your mothers, in fact, you should be having kitchen gardens. The young girls who are here. Do we have a girl here who has a kitchen garden of herself, not the mother's kitchen garden? Salome, do you have your kitchen garden? You don't have. Who has a kitchen garden? None. We should be having kitchen garden where we learn about how to grow these simple foods now, like the herbs, like onions, like having even 2 stems of tomatoes. You learn how to take care of them. As you learn the pests that affect these things, you are getting that knowledge. By the time you are of age, 17, 20 years, you can perfectly do farming because you have an experience from your childhood. And so when you have a kitchen garden, it becomes very easy for you to become a cook, because you are cooking, you just get your spices, your aromatic herbs from your kitchen garden, and you add to your food. And so this will not make you require to go get some of these artificial and irritating spices from the markets. Are we together? Yeah, so when we learn about cooking, these are all the things that we need to learn. A cook has to be a farmer. And in farming, you must have a kitchen garden. And that kitchen garden should have the most essential things in your home. Because in cooking also we learn how to make juices. It is those herbs that we'll use in making your juices. The mint you will add to your passion fruit juices, to your pineapple juices, to your mango smoothies. You will need those herbs if you want to stay healthy and all that, to encourage the appetite in the family. But it is so surprising that some of us have never even heard of these herbs. And that tells us that as a people, we are so much far behind. Because if we are hearing them now for the first time, when are we going even to look for them? Because we don't even know where to find them. and start planting and start practicing this. So how are we going even to start practicing this cooking? Because most of us know after this meeting, where are you going? To the supermarket to buy those things from the supermarket and then go try these things at home. And you realize that most things may not work. So there is a lot to do as a people. But again, this a lot to do can be done in the short time that we have by willing people, not by every one of us, by willing people. If we are willing, we can do this. But if we are not willing, we will be just repeating this every now and then. We will come back, do this, and continue repeating the trainings, cookery training. You will be attending many of them, but again, they will never benefit you because we are not making that progress of even being the doers of the word. And so I think that is it about the spices. If you want more, you can learn more about the spices. You can learn more about the spices and see what you can add to your notes. Now, the last part that I want to talk about before we finish, also because of time, I know we will be making bread, God willing. In this week, we will try to make bread. Hopefully, it will be a good bread. And I hoped that we could make tofu. How many of us know how to make tofu? Lazuli. Any other who knows how to make tofu? Juliet. There is someone? Salome. So now Salome, Juliet, and Lazuli, you are going to be the teachers of making tofu. So tomorrow you are going to make tofu. You will show the rest of the class. If you miss to attend the class and you come out of this training without knowing how to make tofu, don't blame me because I will not teach it in this pulpit. So Salome, Juliet, and Lazuli will help you to make tofu. Are we together? Yeah, tomorrow. So they are going to soak a kg of soybeans this night. Are we together? So you make sure you soak it today. You wake up in the morning, you blend it, and then sieve it and make that. You boil the milk and make the tofu. We will use the tofu the next day, God willing. So thank you for that because now I don't have that burden of making tofu. So what I'm going to do is make bread alone. So if you don't know how to make tofu, find Lazuli, find Salome, and the other girl, and they will teach you how to make the tofu. And we will use that tofu in our next class. Now, concerning making bread, I just want to pass through that so that when we come to the practicals, we are done with the talking. Now, Ellen G. White says that there is religion not only in cooking, but in making good bread. And most of us have never understood what is this good bread that she's speaking about. So I want us to see some of the characteristics of a good bread. And if possible, we are going to try that, see if we can make the good bread. So I'm going to read this. This is If girls were taught how to cook, especially how to bake good bread, their education could be of far greater value. Are we together? If girls were taught how to cook, especially how to bake good bread, their education could be of far greater value. In other words, she's saying, if there is a girl who has gone to school, has finished her education without knowing how to make good bread, it is like she has not learned anything. Because these are now the foundational trainings for the girls and even the boys. Learning how to make good bread. If you learn through the Bible, you will see bread everywhere. There is bread everywhere. It was their staple food. Now, out here we have a narrative that wheat is bad, which is true because of the hybrid nations of the wheat. When the hybrid varieties started coming over, the wheat became bad because of that artificial gluten somehow that is added to the flour that we are using, especially now the white flour that is bleached and processed and refined. But if you can get good wheat that has it is natural gluten, and then we are told that bread is a good article of food. It is one of the best. And the bread that is made the best way possible, it is the best for digestion and for our good health. So girls have to learn how to make good bread. And now, what is this good bread? And how to make this good bread? How do I open this? So we are told in bread making, the superfine white flour is not the best. Its use is neither helpful nor economical. Fine flour bread is lacking in nutritive elements to be found in bread made from the whole wheat. It is a frequent cause of constipation and other unhealthful conditions. So, in this case, when making bread, we should not be using what? The white flour. So our bread should be made from the whole wheat. Why? Because of the white flour lacks the nutritive elements that we need in our bodies, and also it causes constipation and other unhealthful conditions. The use of soda or baking powder in bread making is harmful and unnecessary. So one thing, if we are making bread, no using baking powder, no using baking soda. We are told these two, baking powder and baking soda, they also have effect of doing away with the sensitive membrane of the stomach. They cause inflammation and poison the entire system. So we should not be using baking powder, nor using baking soda. Soda causes inflammation of the stomach and often poisons the entire system. Many housewives think that they cannot make good bread without soda, but this is an error. If they could take the trouble to learn better methods, their bread could be more wholesome, and to a natural taste, it could be more palatable. So there are other ways that we can learn in making bread other than using the baking powder and baking soda. And which other ways? The other ways we know of making bread, there are two. Either you're making a flat bread or a raised bread. A raised bread, you have to use yeast. Now, is yeast good? Yeast is good and at the same time it is bad. Are we together? It will depend on how you use it. Yeast is a living organism. And as a living organism, we are told all living organisms have one characteristic, that is they all die. So yeast in some circumstances, it dies. And in these circumstances is either if you store it badly or if you subject it to high temperatures, it will automatically die. And so if yeast is dead, it has no effect to the body. But if yeast is alive, it will automatically have an effect to the body. So how do we use the yeast? She says bread should be in making raised or yeast bread. Now, in her time, and we have quotes where LNG White, the girls that were living in her house, they were using yeast. There's a girl who never wanted to use yeast in making bread, and she used to fail in making good bread. And she had to tell her to learn how to use yeast in making the bread, and the bread could turn out good. So I know there are people who teach that we should not use yeast, but you cannot find a quote that says we should not use yeast. But we have so many quotes that tells us how to use yeast the better way. One way is in making raised or yeast bread, milk should not be used in place of water. The use of milk is an additional expense and it makes the bread much less wholesome. Milk bread does not keep sweet so long after baking as does that with made with water, and it ferments more readily in the stomach. So milk, when making yeast bread, no use of milk. We should use just water. Bread should be light and sweet. Now that is one thing when you're making bread, learn that bread has to be light and sweet. Most of the bread that we buy from the supermarkets, they are very light. Have you ever seen them? The bread, the normal bread we buy, even the white bread, is very light. But the bread we bake in our homes, most you find that it is dense and what? And heavy. Now the bread that is dense and heavy, the body cannot digest. So bread has to be very light and sweet. Not the least taint of sourness should be tolerated. The loaf should be small and so thoroughly baked that so far as possible, the yeast germs shall be destroyed. So here in this quote, she's telling us that the yeast germs, the yeast does what? Does die. And so when you are making bread, your first goal or the aim is to make sure that yeast dies. And the one way she has said is make sure the bread, the loaf should be small and thoroughly baked. When hot or new raised bread of any kind is difficult of digestion, it should never appear on the table. This rule does not, however, apply to unleavened bread. Fresh rolls made of wheaten meal without yeast or leaven and baked in a well-heated oven are both wholesome and palatable. So when making bread, fresh bread should not be consumed. The best bread to eat is bread that is from 2 days old. That is another thing, just to make sure that the yeast is completely off the bread. So don't just bake hot bread and cut it and take it. You have to leave the bread and rebake. We are going to read quotes where she says we should rebake. If you cannot wait for those days, the next day you have to rebake the bread. It is called the Zwieback bread. Bread that is twice baked. You bake for the first time, you let it cool completely, and then you return to the oven on a very low temperatures, and then you bake that bread, and it is thoroughly baked. Now that bread, she says, it is better and good for digestion. Now she says, grains used for porridge or mash will have several hours cooking, but soft food or liquid, I just want to start from Zwieback. There. Zwieback or twice baked bread is one of the most easily digested and most palatable of foods. Let ordinary raised bread be cut in slices. Now, how do you make Zwieback? After baking your bread, slice in, cut it in slices, and do what? And let it be dried in a warm oven until the last trace of moisture is disappears. Then let it be browned slightly all the way through. In a dry place, this bread can be kept much longer than ordinary bread. And if reheated before using, it will be much as fresh as new, when new. So, after baking bread, you cut in slices and then return them to the oven on a very low temperatures. Let the bread rebake and turn brown on both sides. And that bread, there is no moisture in it. And that, she says, is one of the best articles of bread. Now, we never get this bread from the shops. The bread we get from the shops is very soft, sometimes with some moisture in it, especially the brown bread. It is hard to find brown bread from the shops that is very light. Most of them, they are very heavy and dense. And so, these are some ways of making bread. So these are the things when you want to make bread, they should be in the back of your mind. And so when you are using yeast, another thing you have to know is when using yeast, you have to know the yeast you are using. Is it a dead yeast or it is a living yeast? So you have to do something that is called the proofing process. Now that we will do in the practicals. The proving to see if the yeast is living, so that you don't use the yeast and it turns out that the bread does not rise, and then when you partake of the bread, the yeast is still there. Now that will give you problems. So these are some of the things that you need to learn when making bread. So here we are told women especially should learn how to cook. What part of education of a girl is so important as this? Whatever may be our circumstances in life, here is knowledge that she may put into practical use. It is a branch of education which has a most direct influence upon health and happiness. There is a practical religion in a love of a good bread. There is a practical. When you start making bread and when you will try to make bread more than 10 times and the bread is not coming out, and maybe you try until your 15 times, that is when you perfect in making bread, and then you come to understand what she's talking about. The patience that comes with that, the joy, the happiness when you perfect it. And then when the people will enjoy when you serve this bread. And she says that there is a practical, not just a religion. It is a practical religion. Why? Because in our homes, I can count even, you can even bear witness the homes that are here, even those have ovens. You can tell me how many times we make bread, even in a month. Most of us don't. Most of us, our oven, they are there for a name that we have ovens. Very few people try in baking. We have an excitement when we don't have the ovens. When I get oven, I will try this. But when we buy those ovens, we try once and we go back to our old habits of eating sweet potatoes and rice and everything. And when you read, you are told this is a good article food. It should be part of us. It should be even a good Sabbath. Every Sabbath meal we have good bread, some cream on it, some jam that we can make from the fruits that are around. You make some mango jam, you make some pineapple jam. Right now we have some guavas, you can make some guava jam, and then you apply on your bread on Sabbath and let the children enjoy. And you break that monotony of eating. Like, because we know every Sabbath, what should we expect every Sabbath? Chapo, githeri, and sweet potato and rice, right? Yeah, we should break that monotony and have this good bread every Sabbath. The children get excited. It is Sabbath day, we are going to eat bread. You know, we are talking of us having practical Christianity in our homes and in our churches. So, there is a lot that we need to do. And I see my time is almost up. Now, in making good bread, I want to speak about something which I know most of us don't know. Let me find this. Where is this? Let me find the right spelling for this. Not finding the right. Let me try to find this. I'm not finding the right spelling for this. You find it? Where is it? Is it up there? What is the spelling? S? L A? This. It's not coming. So, let me see this one. Yeah, there is you see that word there, accelerators. Anyone knows that word, what it means? Now, we are told some do not feel that it is a religious duty to prepare food properly. Hence, they do not try to learn how. They let the bread sour before baking, and the accelerators added to remedy the cookies carelessness makes it totally unfit for human stomach. It requires thought and care to make good bread. But there is more religion in a good loaf of bread than many think. Food can be prepared simply and healthfully, but it requires skill to make it both palatable and nourishing. Now, there are people, when they were taught not to use baking soda and baking powder, they resulted or they thought of making use of this thing that is called accelerators, which most of us do not know what it is. And it is a very common thing, especially with the people from Western Kenya and the people in Nyanza area. The other tribes mostly do not know about it. And let us see what is that thing. Yes, there is one that let me see if I will find the definition of that. Can't find that, but I can try and Google that. Maybe I should Google. The internet. It's going to help me. So when you Google that, someone can just try to Google that, but I know there is somewhere where there is a definition of what is accelerators. Hmm? Can search it. Let's see. Search how it is made. Hmm? Hmm. So when you try to Google how it is made, these accelerators, we are also, accelerators also known as baking soda or sodium bicarbonate is made by the reacting sodium carbonate soda ash with carbon dioxide, which result in the precipitation of sodium bicarbonate. Now this is the more, I think the more modern one, but there is an old way how they used to make it. Let me see if I can find it. It is here. You see this part? I don't want to open it. Maybe I may not find even. Just let me try to open it. So there is a normal way how they are making it now. There is an old way how women used to make it during the time of Ellen G. White, and it is in those books of the pioneers how they used to make these letters. Now it says what? Do you know what that is? Huh? Do you know what that is? Have you made that thing? Who knows what that is? Because it is a sodium bicarbonate, but it is made naturally by pouring water through the wood ashes, producing a lye. A lye, this lye here is sodium hydroxide or sodium bicarbonate. Have you seen something this made? This something made? Yes.
Have you ever seen such a thing?
What do you use it for? Huh? We use that in cooking. Brenda, you use it in making kunde, mito, to tenderize the vegetables. Now, this is what they were using to bake, because they were told not to use soda ash, which is sodium bicarbonate, and baking powder. And what is in the sodium bicarbonate? It is the lye, that alkaline part of it. But now these women went out and thought maybe this other one is harmful, the one that you're making at home. And so they started, and they were using, like in the Western, they use the peels of green bananas. Why? Because the green bananas, before they are ripe, they are full of alkaline. They are full of potassium hydroxide. They are full of sodium hydroxide. So they have lye. That is the other word for sodium hydroxide or sodium bicarbonate. It is lye. So they will make the charcoal, or they will make the ash and then pass the water through it, and then they will filter some funny looking water, some brownish water, and they will use that water in baking. I've used that before. I've been using that in baking before I read this quotes, and I came to understand what saleratus is. But what was she saying about saleratus? We should do what? Now let us go back to the quotes, now that we know what is saleratus and how it is made. Now we see what she's saying about it. She says what? She says what? Saleratus in any form should not to the stomach, for the effect is fearful. It eats the coating of the stomach, causes inflammation, and frequently poisons the entire system. So we may not be using baking soda, we may not be using baking powder, but if you are using munyu, we call it munyu or musherega, we are still having the same effect. And so we should not be using this. Now, this other part in this side of Luoland, they don't have munyu. Some have munyu, but they have something else they use in place of that. What do we call that thing? It is just the same thing. It has the same effect. There is something you use in this other part for the same purpose. Bala. Do you know bala? It has the same effect. It should not be taken. Bala, we use it, by there I've used it to make soap. It is the way you use that chemical, the way I use the sodium hydroxide, that chemical for making soap, Bala has the same effect. It will just give you the same soap. So sometimes I ask myself, if you can use a chemical to produce a soap, and you use this thing also to produce the same soap, what effect does it have in the body, even though it is naturally mined? It washes away the coatings of your stomach. So you can research more on it. But these are some of the things that we ignorantly or we don't know about them, but they are there in the spirit. So when you research about Bala, find their chemical names. What is its chemical name? You realize it is sodium bicarbonate still. And it has the same effect as So baking powder, it has the same effect as baking soda. So when we talk about cooking, now it will send you to the drawing board. We are used to tenderize vegetables with these things. So what are we going to do? No eating brenda again. No eating kunde mito again. Because these are the things that make these vegetables even taste good. And we love them like that. But again, these things are also causing some harmfulness to our stomach. So what are we going to do? So as a good cook now, you should research what can you use instead of those things, because there is always a way. There is always a way. When we are told this is bad, there is a good thing to use. So it is upon you to research and know what things, those good things to use. And I think to that part, the other part about bread, we are going to learn the process that is given, the recipe that is given in the Spirit of Prophecy on how to make bread. We are going to follow that recipe to make bread. So I think that we will do when we are doing the practical. So we follow it and make that bread and see how it turns out and see if it is something that we can encourage and adapt for our families, and hope that those who don't have ovens, you are going to prioritize that having oven is not a luxury, it is a basic need for any reformed family. Have an oven. There's so much you can do for the ovens. That way you will help yourself in breaking the monotony of just eating the same foods cooked the same way because you have no option. Oven will give you so many other options. So I want to pause there, pray, then we can have the questions and maybe comments. We thank you, Father, once again for this moment that we have heard of learning. Thank you for things that you are teaching us that we never knew. And so our prayer is that you may make our hearts receptive of this message. And not only that, but Lord, when we leave this place, we don't come out as same people. We come out with people with the reformed minds, people with the reformed appetite, people with now broader scope of thinking, and people who have made decision to turn the world into a better position for everyone to be in by living this message in its practicality. Thank you for this moment as we even proceed to other more activities and classes. We pray that you may be with us. It is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.